How woke should we really be as a society? Open thoughts, open discussion, open talk. How's everybody doing? This is Javier here, coming to you live. Javier's blog 208 on YouTube. I hope everybody's doing well. I am going to probably use my computer once in this talk, but most of this is just going to come straight out of my head because I don't need the screen to distract me from what I really want to talk about today. The right has been brainwashed heavily, from my understanding, about the term woke. And the only time I'm going to use this computer is to tell you what woke actually means. Being woke just means you're concerned about social injustice and discrimination. It also means you're well-read, educated, have an understanding of the world, have an understanding of people, have an understanding of society, have an understanding of diversities, maybe read lots of books, intelligent, etc., etc., etc. And you want to see people treated right. Black people, gay people, trans people, immigrants, migrants, etc. And at the end of the day, this is what woke is. Now, I have come to realize, as of recent months, as my views continue to evolve, if you will, that woke is, even though woke is heavily demonized by the right, very, very demonized by the right, the truth, and the truth is a hard pill to swallow for many on the right, but it is what it is. The truth is, a lot of people who have demonized woke, in the past, myself included, in more conservative days of mine, never actually knew what that term meant. Never actually knew that woke being woke means you're open-minded. You understand people, you understand diversities, you understand books, you've read well, you're educated. That's what woke means. A person who goes to a bookstore and spends all their time at the bookstore, and who is reading every book and trying to understand every point of view and every philosophy and every belief and understanding people out there, every different kind of people out there, whether they're racial minorities, sexual minorities, gender minorities, etc. That person's woke. And being woke is actually a label to be proud of in its moderate form. What I mean by that is, in its moderate form, it should be a label to be proud of, and also it should have no conflict at all with Christianity. In the past, when I used to be a lot more conservative than I am now, I've heard the term woke. I've heard it. It was something that, and I honestly, I'm going to be honest with you, I went through a second conservative phase. Like, my first conservative phase probably lasted between, I'm going to be honest, it lasted between 2013 and 2016. That's when I was a really fundamentalist right-wing evangelical. Really fundamentalist, conservative, right-wing Republican evangelical. 2013 to 2016. Interesting how it was 2016 that it kind of slowed down, which happened to be the year of the 2016 election. Not the topic of this video. And then I stayed a Republican until 2018. I became a more moderate Republican from 2016 to 2018. Like, let's say end of 2016, early 2017 to 2018, I became a moderate Republican. End of 2016. And then COVID hit. Me, myself, like a lot of the other young men, were horrified at all the mandates. And I remember this so clearly. I remember being, well, first of all, I thought I recognized it was a disease. It was something that was hitting Italy, it was hitting China. I'm like, oh, it's surely not going to come over here. Oh, we got our first case, second case, third case. Got worse and worse and worse. Feels like a dream now. And then everyone says you got to start wearing masks now. Okay. I will wear the mask because I want to protect myself and others. And then after like a year went by, I'm like, this is getting a little too much. And then they started to get worse. Like, you got to start vaxxing up. You got to start, vaccine passports, all this stuff. And this kind of started my second conservative phase. My second conservative phase, I'm going to be honest with you, that probably lasted from 2021, because I voted for Biden in 2020. That did happen. 2021 to 2022. I'd probably say 2021 to 2022 were like, I kind of went back full into the Republican Party, along with a lot of other young men my age at the time. And it was because of all the mandates, really, at the end of the day. It was because I thought DeSantis was a superstar. I thought, I was really admiring DeSantis for, banning all the vaccine mandates, mask mandates, etc., keeping Florida free, keeping travel free in Florida. And I really, really looked to DeSantis. And in this case, I related to what a lot of young men were going through. Sickened by the lockdowns, sickened by all the mandates, sickened by all the, all the all the mandates, the vaccine passports, all that stuff. And at the end of the day, I picked up, when I was living in Massachusetts at the time, I picked up and moved to Florida. I just did it. I just decided I'm moving to Florida. I'm not going to deal with, I voted against Michelle Wu. This was at the time. I voted for her a couple of years later, more recently. But at the time, I voted against Michelle Wu in 2020. She won. I voted against her. She became a great mayor, by the way, but that's aside from the point. I picked up and after I heard she was going to unleash vaccine passports, I picked up and I moved to Florida. I moved to St. Petersburg, Florida. And it was because of the mask mandates, the vaccine passports, all that stuff. Got a job at Tropical Smoothie Cafe in St. Petersburg. Hashtag Danielle, God bless you. You are a wonderful person, I deeply respect you, no matter what. And got a job there and lived a free life in Florida. I did. I lived a free life in Florida. And honestly, and then I started hearing about all this term woke, and I started to think this is like a demonic term. This is evil. This starts to growing, and like you start to hear about woke and Disney and woke, this and that, woke and all this stuff. It's like woke this, woke that, promoting LGBT propaganda or whatever. And I remember starting to think, this stuff is really bad. It's really scary. And I was honestly rather uneducated at the time about what it actually meant, because the right was springing this term. I was, for the second time in my life, I was a very hardcore Republican, hardcore conservative. Well, not as bad as before. Seriously, not as bad as before. The first time it was right-wing evangelicalism. The first time it was right-wing evangelicalism. The second time it was it was because of the COVID, the mandates, and then I started hearing all the stuff about woke and Disney and LGBT propaganda and movies and all this stuff. And I bought into it. And this kind of went on, let's just say 2021, 2022. And then I went through something really hard at the end of 2020, at the beginning of 2023, which I don't want to talk about. But after my views started to moderate again. My views started to moderate about that. And then, because my views started to moderate, I started to see, the right was kind of going a little bit extreme. And then, it just kind of went on the trend of at the end of the day, I started to see what a lot of people were turning into because of anger of COVID, because of hard rightism, because of woke, etc. And it all goes down to the point of this video. It all comes down to the point of this video that I'm trying to make to you. So, as a society, fast forward to today, I've gone through a lot of shifting in my views, a lot of adjusting in my views, etc., etc. And really, it started at the 2020. I'd probably say it really, started with around the time of the 2024 election, when I decided that I was going to vote for Kamala Harris, because I agreed with her so much more than, I didn't like to see what the right was becoming and I wanted to keep a positive example in the White House, succeeding President Biden for our younger generation, for our young men, and for just younger people in general. So, putting the story aside, the story will just kind of get into a lot of confusion and all that, but putting that aside, I recognize I recognize after really, really, really understanding things better that as a society, we should be a little bit woke. That's just the truth. And woke in a good way, not the extreme way, because I also understand there's a very, very extreme version of woke, the LGBTQUIA, whatever. There's the woke involving all this, there's a really extreme version of woke. And then there's moderate woke. Moderate woke is what I am. I believe we need to grow up in a society where racism will be a thing of the past, homophobia will be a thing of the past, and realistic transphobia should be a thing of the past too. I think that people should have their rights, should have their equality and their dignity in society. I believe that black lives do matter because we will never know what it's like to be a black person. I believe that gay people do matter because many of us will never understand what it's like to be a gay person. And I believe that trans people do matter because at the end of the day, most of us, the vast majority of us, will never understand what it's like to be a trans person. And when you see the right demonizing these communities, targeting and demonizing these communities, and saying all lives matter instead of black lives matter, because at the end of the day, black lives are the ones that are targeted. Black lives are the ones that are targeted by police brutality and all that stuff. And as far as I understand, I think the biggest amount of assassination rates are black people, honestly. We need a society, a country, and honestly, this is Christianity too, in my opinion, where the marginalized do matter. The marginalized do matter. Since the Trump administration started, I have seen homophobia explode online. That's the truth. It's the floodgates have opened. The floodgates have opened, and I'm seeing a lot of anti-gay propaganda online. A lot of it. A lot of it that was not online before. And a lot of it's just in my feed. And I don't ask for it to be in my feed, but it's in my feed. I'm seeing more conservative propaganda than ever from Tucker Carlson and from all these people, from Tucker Carlson and et cetera, Charlie Kirk at the time of his life. I'm seeing, at the end of the day, the anti-woke right crowd wants to move America backwards. That's their goal. That is their goal. Their goal is to move America backwards. Move America backwards on acceptance of gay people, on the fact that Black Lives Matter, on learning to love our immigrant neighbors, brothers and sisters, on learning to love the vulnerable trans community. And the right wants to move us backwards on all of those. This is why Carlson is making up conspiracies about gay people, having Milo on his show, dropping the F word, F-A-G-G-O-T word, to his young male audience, and creating all these theories and ideas about people that just want to be themselves, just want to grow up and have normal love lives and be happy. And not just that, but just want to be able to have normal friends in society and be integrated in society as normal human beings. Whether they're gay, whether they're black, whether they're trans, etc., etc., whether they're a migrant, etc. And we should aim for a society that has no more, that where prejudice is rooted out. That's the truth. That's the truth. We should aim for a society where prejudice is rooted out. You know? We shouldn't be living in a society where, where kids are still sent to gay conversion therapy, which the right is trying very hard to overturn, by the way, the bans of conversion therapy, and they already have a case at the Supreme Court. I'm surprised they haven't ruled on it yet. We should live in a society where black people aren't afraid to walk into stores, walk into supermarkets, walk into, go out in public and into society, in a normal society, without being followed by cops or being shot. We should live in a society where a gay person and a straight person can be the best of friends for life, because they recognize that they're just different, but they're the same and they're human beings. And where this segregation between gay people and straight people comes to an end. We should live in a society where immigrants who are here working hard, living peacefully, don't have to fear for their lives. Or where trans people don't have to fear for their lives. We should live in a society where gay people shouldn't have to live under religious pressure to remain single their whole life while they watch their heterosexual brothers and sisters, friends and family grow up and get married, because for them, they're told by their religious churches or religious institutions that their love life and love stories are a sin. We shouldn't have to live in this society that does that. Bottom line is, a society that is a little bit woke is a society that will stand up for everybody, that will stand up for all the marginalized, and the majority too. Where prejudice is rooted out, where demonization of people will become a right-wing fringe talking point, and will become a thing of the past. And that's the society I'm aiming for. Yes, I'm a Christian. Hard to believe, right? I am a Christian. And I believe in the concept of a Christian nation. And if you give me just 1 second, I want to read to you something I wrote. I want to read to you this. Make no mistake, I want America to be a Christian nation. But I want us to be a Christian nation that loves, not a Christian nation that hates. A Christian nation that stands for everybody. A Christian nation that defends the poor, the immigrant, the migrant, the sick, the black man, the woman, the people of color, the LGBT. And yes, left-wingers, yes, the unborn as well, and the postborn. The left forgets the unborn. That's a separate video. That's for a separate video. Something that I cannot compromise on is the topic of abortion. Because at the end of the day, the unborn are still the most vulnerable among us. And we should defend them too. But yes, the postborn as well. The postborn, the sick, the elderly, etc. A Christian nation that is defined by who we love, not who we hate. A Christian nation where Jesus Christ is our Savior and His teachings are our example. This is the America that I'm fighting for. And I got a comment. This seems like a vision Pope Leo would agree with. And I wrote back, I greatly respect Pope Leo. Anyway, I think I made my point. I do apologize for the phone dropping. It drives me crazy. I wish I had another camera besides my phone. because this phone is always getting calls and all that stuff, and I don't like that. Too many calls. And I have to, you know, I feel like I may have thrown the video off. I don't know. I hope that the video is not lip syncing again or whatever, but it might be. So we'll see. Thanks for watching. Bye.